And welcome back, everyone, to episode 26 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew, and once again, Vince cannot be here this week. So we are welcoming back Dylan to be our guest this week. So, Dylan, we asked Ryan last week about what his favorite teams were. So, do you just want to run through them real quick?
Yeah, so for NBA, as you can see, wearing a Knicks jersey, Jalen Brunson. I'm a Jets fan, Yankees fan, and a Rutgers sports college fan.
Nice. So, a couple of those teams you're going to get to talk about uh, this week. And of course, the Knicks have been playing really well, and they have two All-Stars, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, first up, we'll talk about the NFL. There's not a ton to talk about this week. It's Pro Bowl, and the Pro Bowl doesn't mean anything anymore. But we just want to get your thoughts on the Super Bowl because we're probably not going to have you back on before it. So, just what do you think about kind of how the postseason went in general, and then how you think the Super Bowl is going to go?
Personally think that the postseason went pretty well. I understand that everyone knows the Ravens were the best team during, I think, the AFC and the NFC all season. However, the Chiefs always perform in the playoffs the best. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL, in my opinion. And this Super Bowl is a rematch back from a couple years ago, I think 2019 or something. It was a really entertaining Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs obviously won that. I think the Niners will want revenge. It's in Las Vegas, so you know the Niners fans will come out, and it's going to be entertaining for everyone. So I think this is a good matchup, and it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, and of course, it didn't really go the way that I think most of America wanted, with the Lions and Dan Campbell being very aggressive in that fourth quarter of the game against the 49ers, and same for the Ravens. Things just kind of fell apart for them in that game against the Chiefs. And it shows, even though the Chiefs might not be the best team all around on paper, even though they have the best tight end and the best quarterback in the game, I think that it shows that the Chiefs still are in their dynasty years, even though they lost guys like Tyreek Hill and like guys like that over the last couple of years.
They will always be in their dynasty years when they have Patrick Mahomes at their quarterback and Travis Kelce at their tight end. Andy Reid
Yeah.
knows how to use these players and take advantage of teams. I know people want to blame Zay Flowers for that fumble, which yeah, that is a rookie mistake, which he is. But if it wasn't for Zay, he wasn't there. They were not coming close to winning that game. Lamar Jackson played 18 games that showed MVP standards, but when it came to that game, he couldn't really create. He was staying in the pocket too long. And I think just the Chiefs defense got to him. I also believe that when Patrick Mahomes is in the crunch time, he doesn't really make mistakes, and I think that shows how he's on another level than Lamar, and Lamar still has to get to that. Even though he will pick up his second MVP and technically tie him on those standards, I don't think they're nowhere close to each other. And for the Lions, I think that's Dan Campbell's game. I think it wasn't a bad play call at all. It was bad drops by Josh Reynolds, just simple mistakes that would have got the Lions to win. The only way to win these games is really by taking risks, and I think Dan Campbell has showed that. And if it wasn't for the players, which you only can blame the players, can't blame the coaching staff for making good play calls like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that usually it would be the right move for the Lions because they've been aggressive all year. You remember in the Cowboys game, they went for that 2 point, which should have worked and then didn't end up because of penalties. And that's a whole other situation with the refs. But I think that's kind of what the Lions needed this season. That's one of the things that propelled them to where they were last week. So I think that it's just about, you're right. The players have to make the plays if their coach is going to put the trust in them that they can make this happen. Because the coach is not the person who's going to end up deciding if you win the game or not. The players actually have to do the things that they want them to do to win the game.
I agree with that. And the one thing that I would was going to criticize on Dan Campbell's part is that in the first half of the game, they ran the ball 14 times combined between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs for something like 160 yards, a couple touchdowns. They were dominating the game on the offensive line. And I did not see the Niners coming back from 24/7 if you continue to slow the clock, run the game out, and just get these slow, steady drives that'll always result in at least 3 points for the Lions. And in the second half, I heard a stat line. They wrote it. They ran it 7 times, which is half of
Yeah.
what they ran in the first half. And I think they kind of got over too confident in the second half, thought they could just pass it and win the game, and they kind of went away what was like working for them. And the Niners took advantage of that with the fumble, with the touchdowns, and just the veteran
Yeah.
experience of the defense.
And I think that the most important part of that is that if a team is up, they're always going to run the ball. You run down the clock, you have more ball safety, like in any situation you see, especially in the playoffs. So the fact that first of all they lost it on downs, then on a fumble, then on downs again shows that like they have no idea what they were doing and they weren't calling the right plays really.
I completely agree. That's Dan Campbell's fault. That's the offensive line. That's like the offensive coordinator's fault. And I don't know. I don't put any blame on Jared Goff at all this entire game. He was outstanding all playoffs all year. He played his role and he got them wins. He got them 12 wins in the regular season. He got them
Yeah.
through the Buccaneers and the Rams. He got them 24/7 through the first half. Even though he didn't pass the ball too much, he did his job. You put him in a bad situation by making him pass the ball that much. Put him in a bad situation, making him play down in a game they should have been up for. I think you blame it on the coaching staff. I think you blame it on some of the receivers who couldn't catch those balls in the important plays. But like overall, the Lions will be back in this spot next year. Maybe not the NFC Championship, but they're going to be good because they have a young core. So I think they have to put this loss behind them. I understand that they could have had it, but they can't let it dwell on them because next year they'll be in the same spot and have a chance to win it all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's again, you see how quickly some of their young talent like adjusted to the NFL at the beginning of the season. They kept going. You have the most receiving yards by a tight end, a rookie tight end. You have like all these things. So I think that for this Rams team, they need to understand what works for them and what doesn't, and then they need to take that into next season with these young
Two
guys.
two 1,000 yard running backs plus the receiving yards that don't even come into factor. Like
Right.
though Jahmyr Gibbs was taking it as a reach at 12 when they drafted him, and personally I thought it was a reach as well. Drafting a running back who played at Alabama, so had good stats, but like didn't get the ball as much in college. You would think that's not the best pick, but it worked out for them. And as you said, Sam Laporta probably one of the better rookie seasons that I've seen in my lifetime. And I think that these like pieces will pair well with Jared Goff over time. Jared Goff is still a good quarterback, and I just don't see I don't it's gonna be the same roster next year basically. Only maybe they add more people to the team. I don't see the same roster having a down season. I have seen them having the same season and just working to making the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But that's kind of all you can talk about for the NFL right now, looking into next season and seeing how the Super Bowl is going to play out because I think it's definitely going to be an interesting one, or the 49ers will crash and burn immediately. So we'll see what happens there. Um, but we want to talk about the NBA real quick because their All-Star week is coming up, and there's a couple teams who have done really well, more trades, injuries, stuff like that. So first of all, as a Knicks fan, I want to ask you your thoughts on the All-Star roster and mention there's three All-Stars in their first year as an All-Star, which is Brunson, Maxey, and Ranchero. And these guys have really stepped up for their teams this year, especially Brunson, who is now, I think, really should have been a starter. And I think that you would agree with that. And the Knicks also have Randall, who got an All-Star nomination. So,
Yeah, I
what?
mean, this
Yeah,
team has been 15-2 since trading for OG Anunoby, 14-2 in the month of January. They're one game off the second seed in the East, and they're just getting like at first when we had Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett, they kind of needed the ball to kind of show what they can do. RJ Barrett needed the ball to score. Emmanuel Quickly, they're not defensive players. Trading those two for Anunoby kind of brought a different piece to this team that we kind of needed. We have two ball dominant players in Jalen Brunson and Randall who are both averaging over 25 a game on high efficiency, which is what we need. With the addition of Anunoby, he can just play defense, hit threes, play his role. And if you can tell by the numbers this month, defensive numbers where points per game that we've allowed has dropped by a lot. We've like more steals, more assists. Everything has just been up because we have more of an all-around team. For the All-Star, I think Tyrese Maxey and Jalen Brunson are gonna be All-Star starters in their career in a couple years. Brunson should have been an All-Star starter this year over Damian Lillard, but it's a popularity test, a popularity game, and Damian Lillard has that. And then Paolo Banchero. I mean, he didn't have like some crazy year that stands out to everyone, but it's just getting his team, the Magic, who have never been like really good for like many years, getting his team to the playoffs right now, and just kind of step by step, he's improving his game every game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's just those pieces that are falling together. I just want to go back to Knicks real quick. All those pieces are coming together, and especially that trade is really people are going to look back on it. That's going to be the turning point of the season because you're right. The defense was less than desirable for the Knicks
Yeah, it's
because
always about
they were able to score, but against teams that have like superstar players like the Bucks, who you did beat there a couple weeks ago around Christmas time, and like just any of those teams really, you can't defend against Embiid and Maxi and those guys. So bringing in Anunoby, especially getting rid of Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett, who I think weren't really pieces that were going to fit in your team in the long run with Brunson at the helm, I think was definitely going to be one of the best trades of the season.
yeah. Anunoby guards no matter he can guard 1 through 5 positions. He guards the opposing team's best player every single time. Against the Heat, he was guarding Jimmy Butler. Against like the Bucks, he'll guard Giannis or like Middleton. He just takes away some of the strengths of their best player, which makes that team use their other pieces to score. And if they're gonna beat us with their veterans, their role players, let that happen. And it's only happened twice since we got him. So it's kind of been working to have that one superstar defender guard their player. On the 2019, I want to say, Kawhi-led Raptors championship winning team, NBA Finals winning team. Anunoby was on that team, kind of as like a younger player. He made big plays on offense, but it goes underlooked that he always guarded their best player. Kawhi wasn't in foul trouble ever because he did not have to guard their best player. He was able to shine on the offensive side, while Anunoby went underlooked and just played his role as a defensive player. Now people are looking at it, and the Knicks are doing really, really well since OG Anunoby came, and like, okay, well, this guy can actually play defense in his role and is kind of improving at offense at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like I was saying, he's just getting matched up with those superstar players, and that's really the difference because the Knicks are able to hold these guys to like a reasonable amount of points, like they did. Was it against the Sixers that they won by 40 a couple weeks ago? Or
He also has the Sixers.
yeah, yeah. So the fact that you're able to do that is huge, especially for a team like the Knicks, who we thought this was going to be another rebuild year. You know, you're getting in these trades and stuff like that, but it's all out this year. So you know, I think it's going well, and yeah, we'll see.
Hopefully we
Um,
can make a push for the finals this year.
oh, definitely, yeah. So, just real quick, Russell Westbrook reached 25,000 points in his career in the last week, so that's kind of another big milestone that was passed. And we've been seeing a lot of these guys that were kind of the 2010s to 20 to now 2020s, like these players who are reaching these milestones, and these guys are going to be the next like Kobe's and stuff like that. So it's cool to see whenever
I
a guy like this who's been in the league for a while gets to reach a milestone like this.
want to say he's one of the quickest to do it. Um, he's the 25th player ever to reach 25K points. And Russell Westbrook, he's been switching teams recently. He hasn't been what he was on his MVP seasons and things, but his career has been awesome. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame in my opinion. He's
Mhm.
The only thing I think he hasn't had is his chip. He needs that NBA Finals and he'll kind of solidify himself as one of the NBA greats.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And he's been looking strong as of late. I think, especially because he's still been able to push himself. I think he's averaging 11.6 points per game this season, which is like not bad for his age and where he's at.
And on a team with Kawhi, PG,
Yeah,
and James Harden, that's a ball
yeah,
dom. Those three ball dominant players, and he's just kind of playing his role, hitting shots. And I think he is
yeah,
like a rim runner, kind of just trying to get that
yeah,
dunk and things, and he's doing that really
yeah.
well.
And yeah, that's actually something I want to talk about real quick about the Clippers. We talked about when Harden got traded, Vince and I, that it was a ball dominant team, and we don't know when they're going to be able to figure that out and how they're all going to play together. So, do you think that they've gotten to the point where they are truly a team now and that they're going to be competing for like in the postseason?
So I think their record doesn't, they're not the number one seed, not the number two seed in the West. Skill wise, they are. They're better than the Timberwolves. They're better than the Thunder. I think they have more experience that in the playoffs, those three will outshine Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, or like Cat and or Rudy Gobert. They have the experience, they have the skill as well, and they're playing like their team chemistry is improved. The Clippers has always like had the skill, but they've always like got outshone in the playoffs because they just either get injuries or they just don't work well together. This team's definitely different.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, when you first look at it, I think that the Harden trade was a little bit confusing. I don't know if you feel the same, but I think now it looks like it's coming together. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Harden's
Um,
kind of thing back into his game and he's gonna make a
yeah,
play. So
until he gets injured. But, you know. Um, just real quick, Steven Adams was traded to the Rockets. Just do you have anything to say about this one?
it's a good trade for the Rockets. I think the Grizzlies are tanking. John Morant's out for the season. Desmond Bane has been injured. Just kind
Yeah,
of when his value's high, just get him off the team. And the Rockets need
yeah.
someone like that. So
Yeah, and I think the Rockets, I don't know what their record is right now,
they're a
23 and
couple games.
25.
Yeah, they're a
Yeah.
couple games behind
So,
500.
yeah, so I mean, they were like up there at the way earlier in the season. They were I think in the actual like playoff seeding. But yeah, I think that this is something that can kind of get them back on track.
And with the play-in, teams can always have a chance no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
So never give up on
Because
your team.
they're at 11 right now. So,
Just
but
need
I mean,
10.
yeah, but it's also only the All-Star break, so anything can happen at this point.
Exactly. It's halfway through the season.
Yeah. Um, Embiid injured his left meniscus in last week's game versus the Golden State Warriors, and he will be out for at least the weekend, according to the 76ers. And already, before even the All-Star break, if he misses only 3 more games, which might happen this weekend, he will not be eligible to win the MVP. So you see those rules coming into play and how those are kind of affecting. And I think there was another team fined this week for not playing
It
their
was the
best players.
Pelicans. It was the Pelicans and the Sixers were fined for not playing their not best players or anything, just not playing their players in general. And I personally don't agree with this fine at all because I guess the Sixers were not playing Embiid because he did have a tear in his left knee, the lateral meniscus. And you can't expect like a center like that to be playing if you don't really know what's like happening to him. So I it's not gonna they're not gonna take the fine away, but I don't
Yeah,
agree with it. But Embiid, he's having a career year, averaging 35 plus points per game. Would be the MVP if he played. But like it's always the issue with him. He's never played enough games. And like that's someone like Jokic who might not be putting up crazy numbers this year, but he plays every single game. And that's something that value is value to a team and value to a league. So
yeah, I definitely agree. But we have a little bit more basketball to talk about because today is a huge day in college hoops, and this day has kind of been hyped up by fans across the U.S. for the past couple weeks because today we have Duke versus UNC, Kansas versus Houston, Tennessee versus Kentucky, and Iowa State versus Baylor, and these are the top programs in the country, and especially Duke UNC. I think is going to be really fun because UNC has kind of uh, pushed ahead to be the leaders in North Carolina right now. So Who do you think's going to win this one? Because I'm very interested to hear what you have to say.
Man, this is always like a classic game. So I'm definitely gonna watch it today. It's at UNC. So there's always a factor in this game. And UNC is coming off a really, really bad loss against Georgia Tech. That can't happen if you're trying to make a push for the 1 seed. If the new rankings would come out, they'd not be three anymore. But to bounce back, the best game to do it is against your arch rivals, Duke. I think UNC has the experience on their team. They have the veterans. I think Duke is more of a younger team. So I have UNC in it, but it's going to be a really close game. For
Yeah, you
for
go
Kan-
ahead.
for Kansas and Houston, I understand Houston's the higher seed. I'm not sure who's home. I think I want to say it's Houston, but I have Kansas in it. They have Hunter Dickinson, Kevin McCullough Jr. They have veteran experience on that team. And Houston, they had two back-to-back losses in the middle of the season after being the number two team in the country. They're prone to have losses. They're not unbeatable. And I think Kansas is just a better program this year. For
Yeah,
Tennessee versus Kentucky, that's the 5 versus 10. Man, Tennessee, Dalton Connect. He's a transfer from Northern Colorado. I think he's a grad senior this year. He's been playing out of his mind recently. I think he's averaging close to 20 points a game. Many times he's had 30 plus. The reason Tennessee's been in all these games and winning was at him, and I think he has the edge over a Rob Dillingham, Reed, and Kentucky team. So, and then the final game, number 12, Iowa State versus 18, Baylor. Iowa State jumped up 11 spots this week in the rankings after beating Kansas, which I have over Houston. So I think they're going to keep their hot streak going. They're the second in the Big 12 right now. They're going to beat Baylor today.
yeah. I agree with you on all of them. I think that the UNC game is going to be like very close. I mean, obviously because they're two of the top programs uh, in in the country, but I think that those two teams are very similar, and I think that definitely playing at UNC is going to be a factor as usual. But it's going to be fun to watch, I think. But yeah, UNC will probably edge it out at the end.
Definitely.
Kansas definitely is the better program. I think that if they don't beat Houston, that's kind of like that shows something about how they've changed over the last uh like couple years. Both these teams really. So I think Kansas should should take this one. Tennessee, Kentucky. Kentucky is also known as a basketball school. They've had a good program the last couple of years. Tennessee is a higher seed this year. What did you say for this one again? You said for Tennessee, Kentucky.
I had Tennessee because of that. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with that one because I think Kentucky has just not been the same this year. And last one, yeah, Iowa State will continue the hot streak. And if Iowa State wins, do you think they'll move up anymore or kind of stay around the 12 spot?
100. I think they're gonna cut to the top 10 first because if Duke loses, if Kansas or Houston loses, or t if Kentucky loses, those are teams that will drop out of the top 10. Or so I think Iowa State. This is a really important week for them because they have the. It's I mean it's not easy, but they have the easiest matchup out of these four against Baylor, number 18 in the
Mhm.
country. And that's a game where they can shoot up to 9 or 8 with a win because it's a big win, and a lot of teams are going to lose today. So
Yeah,
root for Iowa State to get up there.
yeah, I definitely agree. So, just some quick news out of the Big Ten. They will be cutting the three worst teams every year going forward from the Big Ten tournament. So only 15 teams will make it with the addition of Washington, USC, UCLA, and Oregon. Moving on to the MLB as the offseason keeps moving on. And, pitchers and catchers are reporting less than 2 weeks now. And guys like Blake Snell, Cody Bellinger, those guys still haven't signed anywhere. And it seems that the interest in them go down as the days go on. But a blockbuster trade for a pitcher that my Yankees were looking at, or our Yankees, I guess, were looking at, Corbin Burns got traded earlier than they thought. He thought he would go at the trade deadline. He went uh, 2 days ago to the Orioles. And I think that the Orioles did really well with this trade because they, first of all, didn't give up really any of their main starters on offense or pitchers or anything like that. So I will applaud the Orioles here, even though I really don't like how this ended, how this happened. And I think that the Brewers kind of got fleeced a little bit. And I think if the Yankees were to have made this trade, there would have been a lot more going to the Brewers.
I
Do
agree
you have
with
anything to
that.
say? Yeah,
And I know Orioles, I mean, Baltimore's not a small market team. It's kind of mid, it's in the middle. But they were coming off number one in the AL East, like one of the better years in the recent history. So I think Corbin Burns going to the teams is going to boost their pitching core. And I think that the Brewers, if they would never have traded him that quickly to the Orioles, if they knew the Yankees are going to come out with some bigger trade. I think they understood their options, understood where they want to send him, and like I think the Orioles probably gave him the best deal.
yeah,
Teams would usually understand what is going to be sent to them before. So I think the Brewers front office understood that the Orioles would give the best deal package.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, so Carlos Santana signs a 1 year deal with the Twins, and I think that the Twins are just gonna kind of they've been making some moves over the past 2 years. They've none of them really blockbusters, but I think they've worked out well for them. So speaking of the Twins, Jorge Polanco has been traded to the Mariners in a 5 player deal. Like I'm saying, it's kind of these not like huge blockbuster guys that they're trading, but they're getting good things out of it. I think that the Mariners have made moves this offseason. Some of them might be a downgrade, like getting rid of Robbie Ray and guys like that, but I think that it's still uh, a good move for them to get Jorge Polanco. And lastly, the Yankees
I
announced that
agree
they'll be
as well.
playing. Yeah, yeah. The Yankees announced that they'll be playing a 2 game exhibition series in Mexico City at the end of spring training in March, which I personally am really excited for because the Yankees, were in the London series a couple of years ago, but I like to see when they travel, and especially this series could be really embarrassing for us because there is a chance that this Mexico City team would beat our spring training like squad. So I'm not sure how I
Yeah.
totally feel about this, but because it could be really bad or just kind of fun thing to watch. And hopefully like
Clarification,
some
is it so
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
not the roster that will be playing the regular season. Is it
Um
the roster that will play in the regular season?
yeah, so I think it's gonna be just our normal spring training roster. So it's gonna be like our normal roster and then also the prospect invites, most likely. Because the prospect invites
Okay.
play because in a real lineup like how or in a real spring training lineup, I think you're required to have 3 people from the 40-man roster playing or starting each game, and then the rest can be like spring training invites. So I assume it's going to be roughly the same with maybe a few more
Okay.
starters playing in an exhibition match like this. For the NHL, it's All Star Week as well. And the NBA one's coming up and it's Pro Bowl week. But again, we're not talking about the Pro Bowl because it's stupid. But the Coyotes have bought land in Phoenix to get a new stadium after playing in the University of Arizona Stadium for, I think, 2 years now. So there were thoughts of them relocating and moving away, but they were able to strike a deal with the city of Phoenix and get this, which I think is good. And I think the Coyotes, who have gotten a lot better this year, deserve to stay there. Um, the NHL All Star Week, Connor McDavid won the Skills Showdown, which I don't. I mean, Connor McDavid is obviously like one of the best players in hockey right now, or if not the best, especially after last year's performance. So,
It was a $1
um,
million prize as well.
yeah. I think it's mostly charity though. So,
Oh,
but yeah. But All Star Game actual games are today in the 3-on-3 format. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Let's go Team Hughes, even though Jack isn't playing, so he had to get his brother to co-manage with him. So and some exciting news for international hockey. The NHL announced a 4 country tournament coming in 2025 that will be played between the US, Finland, Sweden, and Canada in US and Canada venues. So I'm really excited for this because some of these squads could be crazy, but it could also have all 3 of the Hughes brothers on the same team. You could see Sidney Crosby and in international play again, and I think this is going to be really fun, and this is really good for the NHL to do. And another thing for international hockey, the NHL will be allowing players to go to the Olympics for the first time since 2014 in 2026 and 2030, which is huge for the NHL and these players who I know wanted to do this for a while. Um,
That's big news for the NHL. I actually never knew
yeah,
that they didn't allow people to go there.
they were going to allow them for the what would it be, the 2022 Olympics, and then I think some things kind of got in the way, obviously. Um, for F1, just this is just a quick thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about. So Ferrari has announced that seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton will be joining them for the 2025 season, and they'll be letting go of smooth operator Carlos Sainz. And Sainz is expected to take a year off and join the new Audi team in 2026. And this is just the rumors. That's kind of what the expected thing would be and what Sainz is more likely to go with. And same for Albon is the front runner to replace Hamilton at Mercedes. And personally, I think Albon really deserves this opportunity. And best of luck to all these guys who are kind of moving around in Formula One. But everything's going to stay the same for going into this year. Um, a fast fact: so Caitlin Clark reaches the second most points in women's college basketball history. Um, so this is kind of a huge thing because she's been the face of college basketball for the past how many years has she been? 4 years now? Is this her fourth or is this her?
Yeah, this is her fourth
Yeah,
year, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. Are they
It
allowed
was
in? Are they allowed to
it's
play
a
like senior years and stuff or like extra years?
yeah, you can if you register or I don't know if they probably had COVID years as well. She's gonna
Yeah,
go to the draft though. I'm almost certain.
yeah,
It's interesting. So she obviously her home crowd at I was always sold out. She recently came to Rutgers to play a game against our team is atrocious. We barely have 6 wins, and our stadium's never sold out for women's basketball. That day, fully sold out stadium. Tickets were sold out instantly, and she put on a show. She had like 30 points that game, and the fans were cheering for her, not even for the own team. But she's right behind Kelsey Plum, who was the first pick in the draft back in 17 or something. She played at University of Washington, and Caitlin Clark is close, so she'll get it this season, 100%.
yeah. And that's just kind of a cool thing. That happened, and I think that this is she's going to be like the lead of the next era for the WNBA, who I think deserves a player like this. And I think that they've been picking up
Yeah,
steam, especially with the Liberty, who are in the biggest market in the nation, doing really well this year. So I think that is just kind of things are starting to pick up. Um, and last fast fact, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been announced to be on the MLB The Show 24 cover. And I would like to say that I really do not like this, and it should be Ronald Acuna Jr. Like not even a question. And I don't really know what happened here. If I had to guess,
agree.
they had
He
yeah,
didn't have his year.
yeah.
He didn't
If I
have that
had
good
to
of a year
guess,
last year, Vlad.
yeah. I think they probably had some sort of agreement before the season happened because he had a what was it 40-70 season, I think. I think it was 40-70, but then he got over 70, which is crazy. So I don't know.
And he was the MVP.
And he was the MVP. And Vladdy had a less than desirable season and was rumored to be traded about a month ago. So you know what? I this was not great, and I'm not happy with this. But you got to report on everything that happens here.
It would be extremely funny if they put him on the cover in a Blue Jays jersey and he gets traded a couple months later
Yeah,
to another
yeah,
team.
because the Blue Jays front office doesn't
That'd be
care
funny.
about the MLB The Show cover. But yeah, any
No.
closing thoughts on anything?
No, just this is gonna be an interesting week. I mean, there's not a lot going on in the major sports. Next weekend, obviously, is the Super Bowl coming up. So I think it's going to be a relaxed week in sports, but college basketball, that's something you should tune into. Awesome games this today and this weekend. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much going to do it for the 26th episode of the Sports Coverage Podcast. As always, thank you to everyone so much for listening, and thank you to Dylan for being my co host this week. We have some new videos going on the Instagram. We're doing blind ranking and wavelengths with Ryan, our guest last week, and hopefully there'll be some from Dylan coming out this week. And yeah, so you can check those out, and we have audio only on Spotify. So thank you everyone so much for listening, and we will see you next week.